got a few in now, so I'm going to get things underway. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us at this webinar being held on proposals for the former Pirbright Institute in Compton. I think I recognise a few names who joined us at the drop-in session last week. So this follows up on that session last week and the workshops that we held in early June, I think now, or mid-June on this particular project. My name is Oliver Deed. I work for a company called ECF, and we were appointed by Homes England to run a community engagement campaign on this particular project to make sure that everybody was informed about the proposals prior to the submission of a planning application a bit later on in the process. Before I introduce the panel, I just want to quickly run through the format of the session. We've got an hour booked in. I'm not sure it's going to take an hour, but we've got an hour if needed. The first 15 or 20 minutes, see the team deliver a presentation, and then we're going to follow that up with a question and answer session as well, and we'll finish the session once the questions have ended. You can submit a question using the Q&A function on the bottom panel of your screen. So if you've got any burning questions, do submit those and I will pose those to the panel. And I am recording the presentation proportion of the session, and we're going to upload that onto the website tomorrow, just so that if anybody wasn't able to make it tonight, they can view the proposals. So I'm going to get everybody on the panel now to introduce themselves. So everybody's on mute and they've got the video off. But Chris King, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself first.
Hi there, thanks Oliver. Nice to meet everybody. My name's Chris King. I am an associate town planner with a company called LDA Design, and we've been appointed by Homes England to provide town planning support and lead the design work for the new planning application that we'll be submitting later in the year.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. Marion?
Evening all, I'm Marion Cameron. I'm here on behalf of Campbell Reith, who are leading on the technical side of this project. I'm the environmental consultant for it. So any environmental questions are likely to come my direction. And yeah, I look forward to hearing your questions later on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Marion. Juliet?
Hi, I'm Juliet Jackson. I'm from Homes England. I'm a senior planning and enabling manager. I oversaw the contract with Cognition in getting the site demolished and remediated, and I'm helping and supporting for Homes England the new outline planning application that we're looking to submit.
Thanks, Juliet. And last but not least, Neil.
Hello all, Neil Iredale. I'm a planning and enabling manager at Homes England, working alongside Juliet and other people on the screen, working up and submitting that outline planning application later this summer.
Super. Okay, I am then going to, like clockwork, share my screen, and we're going to move into about 15 minutes worth of presentations. So Neil, I think you're going to confirm that you can see my share screen. Is that all good?
Yeah, thanks Oliver, I can do, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I shall go on mute and then the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll get started. So yeah, Neil Iredale from Homes England. Homes England are the government's housing and regeneration agency. We acquired the former Pirbright Institute site back in 2016, and that was with the aim of creating an attractive and sustainable neighbourhood that integrates well both within the local landscape and also the existing village of Compton. I suspect you know the site, but it's 16 hectares, near enough, on the northern outskirts of Compton, just north of the High Street. It is set within the North Wessex Downs National Landscape, and so we are mindful that any development needs to be sensitive to that. The site was formerly used as a research facility for viruses and farm animals, and due to this past use, the land was heavily contaminated when we acquired it. As Juliet mentioned before, we've now completed an extensive demolition and remediation programme, and the site is now safe and suitable for redevelopment. Can you move this slide on, please, Ollie? The site currently benefits from an existing approved planning application, planning approval back from 2023. This was for up to 160 homes, employment space, green areas, retention of the former cricket pitch for community use alongside those community buildings adjacent to it, a wildlife area on the northern tier of the site. This planning permission will lapse in March of 2026. So to preserve permission on the site for an additional 3 years, as I mentioned before, we plan to submit a new outline planning application this summer. We are taking a light touch approach, so we don't intend to change any of the key parameters or quantum of development, including housing numbers or employment land, although we are making updates to respond to current legislation and community feedback. And I think I can hand over to Chris that might be able to explain a bit more around this.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Ollie. So I think a lot of people will be familiar with the proposals that were put forward in the original planning application that was submitted to the local authority in 2021. In front of you on screen, we've got the outline master plan that was approved in 2023. This sets out some key areas within the site, the northern area being reserved for wildlife habitat area and community use, open space. We then move into what we refer to as the Intervet platform. The Intervet building is being retained, that's still being occupied and used, and we have a lower density of housing proposed in this location. And then we moved into the southern area where most of the housing is being located. In the southwest corner, you can see that the cricket pitch is being retained, and in the southeast, various sort of SUDS features, wildlife habitat areas. I don't know if you can see my cursor in this habitat area here. There was a bat barn installed, and if we go back up to the wildlife habitat area in the north, we have another bat barn. They're both installed in accordance with the Natural England license. So throughout the site, there are a number of green spaces, local play areas, and the way that has been designed has sort of tried to replicate elements of Compton in terms of its rural location. If we move on to the next slide. So as Neil has highlighted, whilst Homes England are looking to find a development partner to take forward the master plan you've just looked at, the illustrative master plan, we have been brought in to review the designs that have been put in front of the authority and seek to prepare a new outline planning application. And in front of you now is our updated outline master plan. So the general principles are the same as Neil mentioned. So we still have the wildlife habitat area in the north. However, we've sought to open this area up. And one of the key elements that we've sought to address is how that interface with the residential units on the Intervet platform works. So previously there was a very clear sort of barrier separating the two, but we've opened that up, and I think our proposals will go further to enhance this space following all of the community engagement. As we move into the Intervet area, we still have the Intervet building that's shown, as is the employment area, and the level of housing in terms of its density remains the same. It's just orientated in a slightly different way to work better with the wildlife habitat area in the north. Moving into the main part of the site, again, fairly light touch. We still have the central green street. We have sought to increase the amount of SUDS features in the southeast and south central section of the site. That's to enhance the surface water drainage capabilities of the development. That is one of the most important technical elements of this site. We've taken on board feedback from residents in the community engagement sessions and have listened to the local authority, and we'll do as much as we can in these particular areas to make them as integrated and as functional as they possibly can be. In terms of the community open space down in the southwest of the site, we've increased permeability through that area, looking at some additional accesses to allow more movement through the site and open it up to the community. In terms of other policy areas we have had to address, other than the drainage, we are working really hard in terms of mandatory BNG, so biodiversity net gain. This will be spread throughout the site. However, we're utilising the wildlife habitat area for this as a principal zone to achieve our 10% requirement, which is a legislative requirement. And some of the working sessions we've had with the community have been really helpful in shaping the thinking around how this could be used, and also how this relates with the North Wessex Downs national landscape. So that's a really important part of our thinking. If we go to the next page, please. Okay, so this is sort of a bit of text on sort of the key differences between the previously approved master plan that we first saw from 2023, which was developed by the previous consultants working on the site for Homes England, and what we as the new consultant team have developed. So as Neil's pointed out, very light touch. This is about addressing key areas that we have to deal with through either policy change or through a technical issue that has arisen through our due diligence and sort of reviews of the site. So if we just go through the main points, so we've developed a clearer space has been designated for sustainable drainage features in the most southerly portion of the site, predominantly attenuation ponds where water will be collected and stored on site during periods of rainfall. It's important to note that some of these basins will actually be dry for most of the year, and they will form part of the wider public open space, and we'll look to enhance those so they can be used throughout the year when they are dry with sort of seasonal planting. Spaces for play have been identified throughout the site, and we've looked to enhance the locations of those so that the community can access them better, and they relate to other key features. So the community open space, the community buildings, the woodland in the east, and in the central parts of the site. Two back barns are staying where they are. We have no reason or need to remove those, and they may, if we were to, they would need a new license. So they're staying where they are, and that's a really important feature of the site. And then we've addressed the way that the residential elements can be accessed, making sure that there's appropriate car parking provision, that they develop and create a real sense of place for new residents, and further respond to the community, to Compton, and to the national landscape and the character of West Berkshire. So I think that's probably enough for me on what we've done so far. I'll hand over to Oliver now.
Thanks, Chris. Really helpful. I'm just going to very briefly touch on the engagement that we've done to date. So we held a series of workshops around the open space at the top, the open space and the wildlife space that Chris talked about at the top. We had two really good sessions with the local community, really engaged, and then we've also done a couple of sessions with the Compton guys, which happened actually yesterday, which was great, and then the Eco Club at the Downs School. And we also did a very focused session on the drainage with some residents on the immediate boundary of the site down the south on Tythe Barn Close. We did that drop-in last week, which was well attended, and we had really good conversations with the community about this. And I think in terms of those wildlife workshops, lots of themes emerged, but I think there's a general consensus that we want really easy access from the village to that particular space. There's a desire to minimise artificial lighting, and that it would be really nice to have areas where people can sit and enjoy those views out onto the village and to elsewhere. And then there were a series of other suggestions that were made that the team are working on as we move towards the next iteration of the planning application. And then some key themes from the drop-in emerged. So the Type R and close residents were very keen that we dealt with surface water and any perception of sort of flood risk as sensitively as possible. And then there were other suggestions around what might happen in terms of that community building that's down on that, the space where the cricket pitch was. And yeah, it was a series of good conversations that were had locally. So me and my colleagues are summarising all of that feedback at the moment, and that will all be submitted as part of the statement of community involvement, which goes in with the outline planning application a bit later down the line, which is a nice segue into Juliet, who I think is going to talk now about a couple of the work streams, although I probably have a couple of very nice photos to share in terms of some of the stuff that's come out of the community, and we're very thankful to everybody that's participated to date. So Juliet, I will hand over to you on the final slide.
Okay, this is just to give people a bit more of an explanation of things that we sort of presented when we came to see the parish council at the start of this work stream of this new outline, because it can be a little bit complicated that we're following two work streams. So the first work stream is that we're going to continue going out to the market to try and get a developer using the current consent that we have. So that's work stream 1. As you can see there, we are in the process of selecting the developers. It's quite a process to go through. People have to bid. There are a number of parameters that are set that they have to be assessed against. And we're hoping to pick somebody in the summer. I know that's a bit vague in terms of a date, but our process as a government agents is that we have to go through a number of different boards and due diligence checks. As soon as we have appointed them and got our board approval, we will let people know who that is. That developer, part of the applications that they're making, has to show us that they can come in with their reserved matters, so that's their detailed planning consent, and try to meet the deadline of this current planning application that we've got, which runs out in March 2026. So it's quite a tight timetable. And so we're expecting that developers will be saying that they will be coming in and talking to the local authority planning teams in late 2025 in order to hopefully get their consent by that March 2026. Because those deadlines are really, really tight, Homes England have got this parallel strand, which is what we're talking to you in particular about tonight, which is to resubmit to make sure that we keep an outline planning consent for the site. So again, to reiterate what we've sort of said at the start, we want to keep them as like for like as possible, only changing the things that we have to because planning legislation's changed, or because when we talk to all of you in all these different events, you know, some better practice, for example, in that northern wildlife area of how in particular the community want to use it, perhaps we can enhance that a little bit more. So this current outline that we're working up with LDA and Campbell Reith is hopefully going to be submitted to West Berks July, August time, but that is subject to us being able to get to talk to all the officers that we need to, but definitely in the summer period. That would then trigger a statutory consultation period, so hopefully that would be August. Actually, that should be August 2025. Ollie, sorry, I've just noticed that one.
Noted, Juliet.
Yeah,
noted.
So just to make sure people don't get confused, that'll be August time. The key officers in the council will be consulted for them to feed in formally, and there'll be consultation triggered with all of the community during that period. The aim is that the outline obviously will get refined through that, and it will hopefully go to planning committee in around about October, November time. But again, we are subject to whatever those consultees will say, and also West Berks committee cycles. So that hopefully explains the two work streams. Number one, going out and getting a developer who will come in for detailed consent, and number two, just coming back in like as we are with this outline, just to make sure we keep consent on the site.
Thanks, Juliet. And I'll just come in at the end and just say that the information that we displayed last week at the drop-in session is actually already uploaded to the website comptonhe.co.uk, and you can contact us in a variety of different ways, as you can see on screen at the moment. So hopefully residents have got access to all of the information that's been distributed, and this particular presentation will go online tomorrow as well, so that anybody that couldn't make it is able to view the content. So at that stage, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, thank our panelists, and I'm also going to stop recording, but we are moving into Q&A.